Joining me here in Representative John Frullo's office, who his staff has been very kind to let us use today and yesterday, tomorrow as well. Joining us right now, Michael Quinn Sullivan of Empower Texans, Texans for Fiscal Responsibility. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. Nice to see you.
Well, nice to see you. Appreciate you stopping by the Capitol today and coming on the show. And tell folks about what's been going on. I know you've already had a busy morning.
It's already been a busy morning. Every Tuesday during the legislative session, every Tuesday at 9 a.m., we, along with Texas Right to Life, Texas Homeschool Coalition, Eagle Forum, Concern for America, Texas Values, our organizations come together to a program that we call First Amendment Tuesday. Now, a lot of us, when we hear First Amendment, we think freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion. But we forget about two other very important freedoms that are enumerated in the First Amendment: the right to assemble and the right to petition our government. And all too often, we kind of let those things slide away. So the First Amendment Tuesday program is designed for any citizen who's come here, no matter what you're here to do, no matter what your values are or what your ideology is. We invite folks to come to the La Quinta at the southeast corner of the Capitol property, the La Quinta Hotel there. Come in at 9 o'clock. We walk through what are the rules of the legislature, what are the process by which you testify, tips on how to approach lawmakers and staff, how to testify before a committee, and then walk through some of the legislation that's going to be heard in committee or on the floors of the various chambers that week. It's a great program. Now that we're at where things are really moving part of the session,
right.
Standing room only today, so we'd love for folks to stop by. We always have some donuts and some OK coffee in the back for whoever shows up, so we'd love to have folks visit with us.
That's great, and this is something that is really good for the average citizen when they're coming in, and probably the average citizen doesn't know maybe just how easy it is to approach a lawmaker in Austin, but it is something that is fairly easy to do, and something that you should be doing if there's an issue out there that you care about.
That's absolutely right. We lose sight of the fact that we're the employers. They work for us. Now, to be a good manager, to be a good employer, you need to know how to talk to your employees. Now, that's an important skill set for any manager. But make no mistake, you and I are supposed to be in charge. Our system of government was not designed for the citizens to be disengaged. Our system of government was designed for an active and involved and educated population. We need more folks involved in the process, not fewer.
Yeah, and of course, how to interact with people. It helps.
That's right.
We've seen instances this legislative session already where things did not go so well when interacting with lawmakers, and it possibly hurt one of the legislative bills that were out there. Probably did if you listen to enough lawmakers. So it's a good thing to do and to go to know the right way to approach things. Let's talk about the direction this legislative session is going. We've already and just if you've only tuned in to the show yesterday and today, you've already seen some difference of opinions when it comes to the budget between the Senate side of things and the House side of things. Talk to us a little bit about the differences that you've seen already when it comes to the two budgets.
So the session is going kind of the way that we all thought it would. I think all of us kind of outside of the chambers, where they all the divine godlike beings in the Texas House and Texas Senate. And we have seen it really most clearly in the discussions about spending and tax relief. Let's remember, Jane Nelson, who's the chair of the Senate Finance Committee under Dan Patrick, she and Lieutenant Governor Patrick popped out early on with a budget proposal that included $4 billion in tax relief.
Right.
Governor Greg Abbott, in his State of the State address, he put forward $4.2 billion in tax relief. Now, at that point, what the cynical mind usually falls to, based on experience, is that when you've got the Senate producing $4 billion in tax relief and the governor suggesting 4.2, they generally compromise at none. It's generally the way that game plays out. Instead, what we saw happen was Senator Nelson, Lieutenant Governor Patrick came out then with they pushed them together and came out with $4.6 billion in tax relief. And so the Senate's budget of $205 billion includes that $4.6 billion in tax relief. Just this morning, hour and a half ago or so, The House Appropriations Committee, which is the budget writing committee in the House, they put forward a $2.9 billion budget. That's $4 billion more, but they don't have anything built in for tax relief. Now, to be fair, the chair of the Appropriations Committee said, well, clearly there's going to be some tax relief, so we left some money on the table for that. But interestingly, they didn't include it anywhere. And under current law and kind of the weird machinations of the budget, they only left about $2 billion laying on the table. So something's going to have to give.
Right.
And I think that what we've all kind of whispered about, we've all kind of assumed, was there was going to be a clash coming. The Senate and the House and the governor kind of colliding at some point or other. And the budget is probably where we thought it would be. So when you've got the governor and the Senate pushing for a very significant tax relief package, and the House not even paying any deference to that in their budget, that gives an idea of where that fight may be coming.
Well, the governor has said that he would, if there's not significant tax relief in there, then he's not going to sign off on it, correct?
That's right. He said very clearly that he would veto a budget that didn't have significant tax relief to it.
What does significant mean? What does that look like?
That's a good question. Significant is in the eye of the guy with the veto pen.
Yeah.
I would note though that he's the one who put forward $4.2 billion in tax relief. He's the guy who kind of upped the ante originally.
Right.
So I think that you would have to assume that he's looking somewhere in that neighborhood. There's a big push to either repeal or at least make some significant reforms to the state's franchise tax, the gross margins tax. Mm-hmm. That's something that I know your state senator Charles Perry has. As a CPA, he pulls out his hair. He says every time one of his clients comes to him about the business tax, he just can't stand the thing. And so there's a lot of angst about that. It's an obnoxious tax. It's inefficient. It costs more to comply with than the state raises in funds. I mean, it's just a ridiculous tax. It's a boneheaded idea. At the same time, you ask Texans about what their concerns are when it comes to tax policy, and overwhelmingly Texans say, overwhelming majority of Texans say, the property tax is killing us.
Right.
And you can look at our problems attracting manufacturing. You can look at some of the problems individuals have with their with home values and other things. And we do have a property tax problem. It's a big problem, and one that the legislature needs to address holistically and comprehensively, but also something they can do just with some quick tax relief as well.
So we're gonna see some headbutting. It looks like it just, to me, it looks like we're gonna see it over property tax relief going forward. Where do you think this ends up? Do you think this ends up somewhere in the middle of what the Senate has proposed? Do you think it ends up with no property tax relief, or what do you think happens?
I'm not sure that they can walk away from the session with no property tax relief. Given what Governor Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Patrick have promised, given the kind of build-in the Senate has. A lot of these House members are going to have to start asking themselves, the uncomfortable political question that when you go home and you are Charles Perry and you get to campaign around your district talking about, I voted on Wednesday, March the 25th for significant property tax relief. And then all those state reps who were in Charles Perry's district, John Frullo included, they're going to have to explain, well, in the House, we didn't have the opportunity to vote for significant property tax relief. Mm-hmm. That's going to cause some, and at that point, there's nothing they can do about it. And that's what I think a lot of the House members are going to start thinking about now is, how do I go home with a senator who's going to be bragging about what he did, and me having nothing to show for it? That's the question I think a lot of House members are going to start asking in the next couple of days.
And to be fair, we haven't seen, or at least on the show, no one's ruled it out. It's something that is still going to be debated going forward. I think it's going to be a very spirited debate.
It'll be a spirited. We've got 71 days, I guess, left in the legislative session. that's in the regular course of the session.
Right.
There's the opportunity for special sessions. They never feel special when you're doing them. That's what we call them.
All the lawmakers want out.
Everyone wants. We just want, no man's life, liberty, or property is safe when the legislature's in session, and we should encourage our lawmakers to get their job done here in the next 71 days.
Before I let you go, I want to ask you, you see all these headlines that are out there about the debate over local control. Where are you on this, on the issue of local control and where the state should step in?
I am for the most local control, which is for the taxpayers.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to believe that when it comes to things like a lot of the ordinances that are passed that are infringing on economic liberty, when I look at a lot of the debt that we have taken on, we need more citizens involved, not fewer. We need more opportunities for the citizens to be engaged, not fewer. And it's very striking to me that when you hear the local officials, what they're saying is we want control for ourselves, but don't get the voters any more involved in this. Little things like a proposal last session by then Comptroller Susan Combs to simply require more disclosure on the ballot about bonded indebtedness, how much debt a local government had. And you would have thought that the cities and the school districts were being asked to kill all their children,
right?
To go home and take granny off of her meds, whatever. I mean, it was outrageous, the pushback, all from just suggesting that citizens should know what their debt levels are.
Well, and that's something that a lot of citizens don't know, and we've heard over and over again that, hey, your local debt is what's really hurting this state right now.
Texas has, we like to think of ourselves as a small government, efficient government state, but when you look at the matter of state debt, Texas has the second highest debt per capita when you look at state and local debt combined. And that's important to do because in California, for example, all of their school construction in California is done by the state.
Right.
In Texas, we do a little bit differently. That's all handled by local school districts. So you really, to compare apples to apples, you have to look at state and local debt combined. And in Texas, we're number 2 in the nation. I don't want to be anywhere in that ranking.
Right.
We need to be at the less amount of debt. Now I'm a guy who likes to know the whole Ramsey approach. You shouldn't have debt,
right?
Or at least you should only have debt you manage.
Yeah, exactly. Michael Quinn Sullivan, Empower Texans, EmpowerTexans.com. I'm sure we'll visit with you much more throughout the legislative session.
I appreciate you. Thanks for letting me be with you today.
Absolutely. Thanks for stopping by.